And here we are again. We're back. Another episode of Stock to Brock. This is episode 7, part 2, and we're going to cover quite a few things, but we're going to primarily focus on tuning the fuel through the ECU, or ECM, depends, that's what Suzuki likes to call them. But tuning the fuel through the ECM without the use of a Power Commander. Now, on our last episode in part 1, we went through painstaking detail of ignition timing and whether ignition timing adjustments help in this particular situation. We did different timing, tried different timing with different fuels, and by and large we ended up right back where we were, actually a little shy, of our baseline setup, which is 89 octane, a Power Commander with our pump track map that we send out to our customers. So we're back to that setup, and we're going to make, as always, you always got to start with a base. Even if it's same day testing, if the weather conditions change, you want to get your base, find out where you're at. We're going to get our base, and then we're going to leave the map alone, and we're going to import the Dyno Jet fuel map, but we have to take the Power Commander out of consideration also. So we're going to take care of that right now, but first we're going to knock off some base runs real quick just to see where we're at. Okay, so to recap, Alien Head 2, Allison Less Than Zero, Petron, Sprint Filter F1, and we just put the 89 octane from earlier in the day. It's a different, entirely different day for you guys. For us, it's the same day. And when I say the exact same gas, it's the exact same gas that we just pulled out of this bike. We put it back in, and we talk about weather conditions, right? From morning to afternoon, our baseline has changed. It was 193.03. If you come over here, you can see we started off, it was climbing, 194.14. We made another run where it dropped. So 194.14 is going to be our baseline for tuning the ECU. Before we get into this, I've had a bunch of people asking me if we could post a chart, a dyno chart, between a GSX-R and a BMW S1000RR. Now, thanks to our good buddy Ebe, we did some mapping on his bike, and we'll put a link up to this dyno chart. But if you look, the red is the GSX-R as we just tested it. The blue is Ebe's 2017 S1000RR. Now you'll notice this curve is ugly. You'll have to go to his site to see why, because we go through that in quite a bit of detail. But you can see the GSX-R makes a little bit more peak power than the BMW. In the middle, it looks like the BMW may have it a little bit, but we also have to remember these bikes are basically identical. The same fuel, Sprint filter, Power Commander mapping, except that we did choose the Alien Head for our GSX-R because we're going to go drag racing. If we wanted more mid-range torque, we'd have opted for a Predator. So these aren't same day, but the conditions are, the correction factor is 1.01 in both of them, a little bit more humidity for Ebe's. Basically what I'm saying is that these bikes are really, really close to even right now. Now, where it starts getting a little bit interesting, and I'm just going to pull this up here real quick. The time to peak power, man, I could really use some help from Dyno Jet with the way this stuff works. The time to peak power for the Gixzilla was 4.77 seconds. The time to the max horsepower on the BMW was 6.24. So if you look at this, the GSX-R appears to accelerate quite a bit quicker than the BMW. Asterisk, the BMW also has taller gearing, so that could affect its acceleration here on the dyno. The only way we're really going to know which bike is truly faster in the real world is to get these things out, run them side by side at the drag strip, and see what kind of performance we get. So now let's get back at it, what you came to watch. Tuning the ECU. We already went through all the different things you can do separate of fuel tuning. The Flash Tune software is very nice. It allows you to go in, pick your fuel map, throttle position. So this is our base map. And what we're going to do, we're going to import, we're going to do the PC Fuel import. And what that means is we're going to pull up the map that we had before. And this is our pump track final map. That's what we just made with our baseline. There it is. And we're going to apply this table to the fuel maps. Bam. Successfully applied. Now, if I get out of this, well, I guess I can just repaint it. All right. Here's that same map. Remember all the red we had previously? Now we've got this green and yellow. So we know the map was imported successfully. The only other thing we're going to have to do now is go into our Power Commander and make everything a 0. So now we've effectively taken the Power Commander out of the equation. We pulled the same map that we just got 194 and some change with, and I'm going to pull some of this out of the way just to make it a little bit easier again. Let's go over here and look at our fuel. Actually, if I put it in overtime. Okay. Look how straight that air fuel curve is. We have been working very hard on our mapping. And if you remember some of the past episodes, it's that straight, it's that nice at every single throttle position. So let's pull this fuel map in, and we're going to see what we do compared to our base of 194.14. Hey Brock, why don't you just import your DynoJet map into the ECU and everything will be roses? Man, if I've heard that once, I've heard it 1,000 times. We only made one run because that's all we needed to make. Check this out. That's right. We are looking at, almost 25 horsepower drop here at about 10.7. And we've lost power all the way up through here. Let me go ahead and show you what we've got happening here. This straightens things up a little bit. And you can see the air fuel dropped to 10.7 to 1 on that import. Now, I need to be perfectly clear here. There's nothing wrong with the Flash Tune way of doing things. It's a problem with this bike. There's a problem with injector proportioning when you import maps. So basically, you're in as good a shape as any as starting with the stock map and going from there. So the problem that we have is if you look at this map, every single throttle position and RPM has got to be adjusted. Well, unlike when we use the Power Commander and we have the help of the WinPep 8 program and tuning link going in and live tuning these cells, it's not an option when you flash your ECU. Now there are these things called Active Tune that Flash Tune makes, but this bike's been out for almost a year. They're still not here yet. Once the Active Tune is available, it's going to make this a whole bunch easier. But for now, the only way we know to go in and change these, and you got once again, you got to remember cylinder 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the same as on the ignition. There's different mapping and different numbers for all of them. So we got to kick it old school. Way back in the early 2000s. If you wanted to tune through a Power Commander, you really didn't have any choice but to log your data and go in cell to cell. Well, you can, these days you can do that with a data logger, or, and that's all we're gonna do. We're gonna use the Dyno as a data logger. But what do you do about throttle position? I know that at, you know, 10,700 or at 4,600 RPM, the air fuel dropped. That's actually time, I'm sorry. Let's go back to engine RPM. So if you look at this big, we call them holes here in the chart, I know where the hole was, RPM and air fuel. But what throttle position am I at? And also, if I want to tune in here, how do I figure that out? Well, you can use an OBD2 scanner, you can hook up a Wago, you can do whatever you want. What we do, I'm going to use the throttle position from the analog input that I set up from the Power Commander. So I'll know what throttle position I'm at. So now that I know what throttle position I'm at, I know where I can make adjustments in this map. The problem is, when I was using Tuning Lake, I could put load on it and the computer would monitor real time and change it. That's not an option here. So we have got to kick it really old school with a throttle stop. Set our throttle stop at 90%, 80%, 70%, and go in and adjust this area. To say that it's time consuming is an understatement. And you know, if you were watching the air fuel as we were driving from importing the map, you can see we've got problems everywhere. So we're going to go in and fix that, and I'm going to show you how. To fix this, what we want to do, obviously what we did here didn't work out so well. It's just way too rich, especially in some places. So we're going to give the boys at Flash Tune the benefit of the doubt, since they have a de-restricted map for stock exhaust. What we're going to do, and if you can come up here, so from their unrestricted map, we're just going to right click, we're going to copy, and then we're going to go up to our map on the TPS versus RPM, right click, and paste. Now, see what it did? It pasted our maps into cylinders 1 through 4, SW1 and SW2. SW1, SW2, what's that? Well, it's switch 1 and switch 2, in case you want to run dual mapping. The problem is that there's really no way to adjust those right now like you can on a Power Commander. They're working on it. This stuff takes a long time. Engineers have been working on this bike for years. So now if I go in and look at those maps, there we are. We're just going to start from here. I think it's a better starting point. We know we did wrong by putting the import in. Let's go ahead and try this to see if we get a better base to start from. All right, check this out. Now I'm going to go ahead and take the run from our previous import out of the way because it just didn't work very well for us. No problem. Okay, the red line. That's with the Flash Tune ECU copy and paste of their fuel mapping. Well, that's much better. And you know, for some people, man, that's good enough. And if you were watching the air fuel here, we've got lean, we've got rich, we go pretty lean in some places. So how do we fix this? Well, I'll show you what we do. First of all, we have to look at what we've got. If you check this out here, that last run we went 14.5 lean at 10,500 RPM at 100% throttle. So if we go over to this map, 10,500 RPM, let's pick, we know there's a little bit of a delay. We pick from 10,000 to, let's say, 12,000. And because we really don't know what's going on with the 80% column yet, okay, in this area, we know it's too lean, so we want to richen it up. Well, what are these numbers? What does 3361 mean? What does 3362 mean? You know, I know that it means that it's too lean there. So I can come over here and I have the option of adjusting number value. So if I hit +1, +2, it's going to go up 1 or 2 out of these 3,000s. I can't really wrap my mind around that so well. That Flash Tune also gives you the opportunity to do percentage. That's pretty cool, right? So what kind of percentage do I think I need? Well, to me, I don't know, it's got to be at least 10% off. So we're going to fatten it up. I'm just going to hit the plus and then go ahead and pan down here. Bam, 10%. And try it. Now, as you can see, we are a long way from perfect in this area too. 8,500. So let's give it 10%. Holy cow. And then from 4,000 to 7,200. Ah, heck, that looks like at least 10% too. So here's a couple things that I've noticed when people say they tune their ECU. For 9 out of 10 amateur guys, it's basically, I imported a map from my Power Commander, so I'm good. Well, we saw how that worked. When you're working with dyno operators, generally they can get 100% tune. That's not a problem. But on a throttle by wire bike, where down in this area, okay, so 100% throttle is pretty easy, right? Well, what's going on down in here? How do you adjust that? How do you know where 20.19% throttle is? Well, I'll tell you how we do it. Back to this original deal. So because I have this sensor, if I come over here and change my throttle, there's 100%, there's 60%, 47%. Set my throttle stop, there's 55, 54. So in order to do this properly, I have to map all of these cells, all of these cells wherever they need attention. Remember when I said that it was exhausting? Well, it is, and especially if you're like me and you know what we do here at Brock's Performance, we're trying to get the best possible tune, the fastest possible tune. Now, I'm going to go ahead and sort of spoil this for everybody. I already did this. And it took me hours and hours and hours. But, so instead of showing what's going to go on here, I'm just going to go ahead and put that map in and show you what we ended up with. Because I think you're going to be more impressed with that than what we've got here. So remember, this is a Brock's Performance, no PC5 required map, ready to go, pump gas to match all the rest of our setup. I'm going to put it in right now and we're going to go for a ride. Well, that was pretty cool. Weeks worth of work condensed down into a minute or so. Check this out. If we look, and I know it's cluttered right now, but if we look, when the other map was in there, if you see the red, and I know this is a little convoluted, but you can see how we went from this area down to this area. Let me just pull some stuff out. Okay, so that's the difference. We were able to smooth this out. Works much better in here, and if you were noticing it all the way through the throttle range, it was similar to what we can do with the Power Commander. Just takes a whole lot longer. Now, so compared to our base, we couldn't quite get back up to 194, but you know, it's close. There's little gaps here, little gaps there, where with the Power Commander we can make a little more horsepower, but the acceleration all the way through the range now, this is comparable. So what this means is for those guys who just can't handle a Power Commander, they go bad. Man, I've sold thousands of those things. We've seen a handful bad. That's ridiculous. But if you don't want one, we now have the mapping that allows you to match our components together without the need for a Power Commander. Now, do you, as far as advantages, disadvantages, if we put that in, you're not going to really be able to tune it yourself. But there's lots of guys these days that don't care about that. They just want their bike to run as good as it can all the time, and that's good enough. Well, this is excellent for this type of tune. We really spent a lot of time on this, so we can do it now. Now, how are we going to go to the track? Well, I'm going to go to the track with a Power Commander and our base map, because if I'm there and it's humid and I want to pull some fuel away, what if I don't have my fancy cable? What if I don't have an internet connection? With a Power Commander, it's just super simple. You just plug your laptop into it and you're done. So for us, from a race standpoint, that's how we're going to do it. Now, we'll also go ahead and throw this map in to see things and to see how it'll work on the track also, because we're concerned with that. We want to make sure that everything works as well as we can possibly make it do. But that's going to be tuning on the racetrack, so that's an entirely different beast. As always, I hope you enjoyed what we did here. I know the ECU tuning is a little bit complicated, and believe it or not, we've only really scratched the surface. But man, there's only so much we can do here. We need to move on to other things. So we're going to do some other chassis adjustments, ceramic wheel bearings, carbon fiber wheels, suspension. This thing's not over. We're taking it all the way. We're just doing it in steps, and we've pretty much got tuning out of the way now. So until next time, Brock Davidson from Brock's Performance. Thanks for watching.